Hello guys. So now we shall be discussing what are the relations of optic chiasm. Okay, optic chiasm has got some lateral relations, posterior relations, superior relations and inferior relations also. So we shall see what are the different kinds of relations of the optic chiasm. So if you have watched already my previous lectures, right? So the diagrams which I'll be drawing now, that will be very easy to you to understand, right? So you can fast forward the video and watch the video. But if you are watching this video for the first time, then whatever diagram I'm drawing, do not fast forward, just watch those pictures. Okay, so that would be useful for you to frame up the basics in the next upcoming lectures and all. So let us discuss about the relations of the optic chiasma. So what are the relations of optic chiasma? Relations of optic chiasma. So what are the different kinds of relations of optic chiasma? First of all, if you have to understand the relations of optic chiasma, what we have to do is that we have to draw the inferior surface of the brain, right? So brain has got the anterior part, the posterior, the lateral. These two are the lateral, and this is called as the inferior, right? So the lower part is called as the inferior or the basal surface of the brain. So first of all, we have to draw the inferior or the basal surface of the brain to understand clearly what are the relations. Okay, so first of all, let me draw the inferior surface of the brain over here. Right, so in this picture which you can see over here, in this inferior surface of the brain, what are the important structures that which you can see? Now these important structures are, for example, let us complete this picture. Okay, so let us say that here you have got a structure called as olfactory bulb. Okay, here also you have got another structure that this is called as olfactory bulb. Now just beneath this olfactory bulb you have got another structure like this. This is called as olfactory tract. Okay, so here also you have got your olfactory tract. Now after this olfactory tract, here you have got a rounded part over here, right? This rounded portion which you can see over here is called as your olfactory trigone. What is this? This is called as your olfactory trigone. Now from the olfactory trigone there are three important striae that are coming out like this. 1, 2 and 3. Here also 1, 2 and 3. What are these striae called as? One is called as the lateral striae, one is called as the intermediate striae, another one is called as the medial striae. So how many striae? We have got three important striae. So we have got one which is called as the olfactory bulb, next olfactory tract, olfactory trigone, and then this striae. And next important thing is that if you can very closely observe that you have got this area over here, right? So this area which I'm highlighting right now, this is called as pre-piriform area. Okay, what is this area called as? This area is called as pre-piriform area. I will label all these things in a minute. First let me draw it down. Next, behind that you have got a perforated substance over here. This perforated substance which you can see over here is called as anterior perforated substance. Now through this anterior perforated substance, what will pass? The anterior as well as middle cerebral artery, they pass through this anterior perforated substance. Again I'm telling you that what passes through this anterior perforated substance? Anterior cerebral artery and middle cerebral artery. Okay, right. So here these are some of the structures which you have. Let us finish writing these structures and then we shall discuss other structures over here. For example, let us say some of the important structures which we can write over here is that this part over here is your olfactory bulb. Okay, behind this olfactory bulb, this one over here is your olfactory tract. Okay, after this olfactory tract, this part over here is called as your olfactory trigone. Olfactory trigone. And behind this olfactory trigone, this part over here is called as your striae. So there are basically three different types of striae. What are these three different types of striae? One is you have got your lateral striae. Next one you have got is your intermediate striae. And next you have got is the medial striae. Lateral striae, medial striae and intermediate striae. These are the three striae that are located. And what is this part over here? This part over here is called as your anterior perforated substance. Anterior perforated substance. So these are the three important things you have got. Now after these three important things, another important thing I have already told you, that here you have got this nerve called as right optic nerve. Okay. Next, here you have got another nerve that is called as left optic nerve. So this is right optic nerve and this is your left optic nerve. So both these optic nerves, they join together like this, right? So let me first finish up the picture. Yeah. So if you can see here, right? So these two are called as optic nerves. So this is called as optic nerve and that is called as optic nerve. Optic nerve. Okay. So one is called as a right optic nerve and the other one is called as a left optic nerve. Now both the optic nerves are joining together and you see this center point where these both optic nerves are joining together, right? This center point is called as optic chiasma. This center point is called as optic chiasma. This center point is called as optic chiasma. Now behind this optic chiasma, there is another structure over here behind this optic chiasma, and this structure over here is called as tuber cinereum. What is this structure called as? This is called as tuber cinereum. So if you have watched my previous lectures, this picture I have drawn a couple of times, okay? But if you are watching this picture for the first time, then learn carefully what are the structures I am drawing here. So this structure which you can see over here is called as your tuber cinereum. Now just behind your tuber cinereum, you have got two important bodies like this. These two important bodies which you can see over here are called as mammillary bodies. So these two important bodies are called as mammillary bodies. So how many mammillary bodies do we have? We have got two, one on the right and one on the left. Now behind these mammillary bodies, you have got a perforations here. You see these perforations or holes. So these perforations are located back, right? So there are some perforations which are located in the front. You name them. What did you name them? You name them as anterior perforated substance. Then these perforations which are on the back should be called as what? Obviously posterior perforated substance. So this part you should call it as posterior perforated substance. Posterior perforated substance. Now behind this posterior perforated substance, what is this particular part you have got is your midbrain. Okay, so this particular part which you can see over here behind the posterior perforated substance, this part is your midbrain. Okay, now if you specifically see what are the structures that are in relation with the optic chiasm, what are the relations of optic chiasm? So first of all, let us highlight where is optic chiasm. Okay, you see this yellow color dot which I'm putting in the center here, right? So this yellow color dot will represent your optic chiasm. Now what are the structures? The first structure which we shall, first relation what we shall discuss is what are the lateral relations. There is only one lateral relation. So what are the lateral relations? Only one lateral relation is there. If this particular part is your optic chiasm, on either sides of the optic chiasm, you have got an artery like this. On either sides of the optic chiasm, you have got an artery. This artery is nothing but called as internal carotid artery. One internal carotid artery is on the right, another internal carotid artery is on the left. So the lateral relations are, what are the lateral relations? The right and the left internal carotid artery. The lateral relations are right and left internal carotid artery. Now after this, next we have got something called as posterior relation. What are the posterior relations which we have got? What are the posterior relations of what? Posterior relations of this optic chiasm. Now by looking at the picture, you tell me what are the posterior relations, guys. For example, this is optic chiasm. Behind the optic chiasm, whatever is there, that will be the posterior relation, right? Now behind the optic chiasm, what do we have? Can I tell behind the optic chiasm this particular part? What is this? This is called as tuber cinereum, right? Next, attached to the tuber cinereum, what do we have? We have got infundibulum. right? So these things you will learn in another picture. Okay, so we'll draw that picture, but before that, just let me passively write it down. So one is tuber cinereum, which you can already see here, right? So this is the thing which I will draw. And after that, another part which is present, not mammillary bodies, not posterior perforated substance. I'm speaking about that only one relation that is present right behind the optic chiasm. So the relation that is present right behind the optic chiasm is tuber cinereum, and down to the tuber cinereum you have got a structure called as infundibulum. Down to infundibulum or pituitary stalk you have got pituitary gland. So that thing you can see only from the medial aspect. Okay, so I will draw that picture, but for now I'll just write it down. Then I'll draw that picture and I'll show it to you. Okay, so posterior relations are, what did I tell you? One is called as your tuber cinereum. After tuber cinereum you have got your infundibulum. So these are the two posterior relations. Next, after the posterior relations, you have got another important thing called as superior relation. Now, what are these superior relations here? So, what are the superior relations? Now, in this picture, you cannot see anything. Superior in the sense like this. Here, do you see anything? I don't see anything. So, we shall be discussing about the superior relations. Now, what are the superior relations? So, there are two superior relations over here. So, one superior relation is your lamina terminalis. I know if you already know, if you have already attended the previous lectures, you might have known by now what is lamina terminalis. And if you haven't attended any previous lecture and this is your first video, then I will draw a picture that there you will understand what is lamina terminalis. So for now, just passively write it down. Next, another important thing is floor of your third ventricle. Floor of your third ventricle. So these are the structures which are located superiorly. Now what are the structures that are located inferiorly? Inferior relations. So what are the inferior relations we have got? So in the inferior relations we have got only one important structure, and that is called as diaphragma sellae. What is diaphragma sellae? Is that the dura mater will fold itself to form a cavity like thing, and that is called as diaphragma sellae. That is called as your diaphragma sellae. Okay. So now we shall discuss all the structures one by one. Let us tick one by one structure whatever we have discussed. So we have discussed one by one structure and we shall tick one after the other. Coming to the lateral relations, in this picture it is very clearly visible about the lateral relations. So right and left internal carotid artery is clear. Second, coming to the posterior relations. Posteriorly we have got this green color thing. What is this called as? Tuber cinereum. So we already discussed about tuber cinereum. We did not see where is infundibulum located. We did not see where is lamina terminalis, floor of third ventricle and diaphragma sellae. So for all these things we shall draw a picture and then I will explain you where are these structures that are located over here. Right. Now for this, let me draw a picture over here. So in this picture which I am drawing is the medial surface of your cerebral hemisphere. Again, I think I have repeated this 1,000 times. So these are your both cerebral hemispheres. This is your right cerebral hemisphere, left cerebral hemisphere. Both the cerebral hemispheres are attached to each other. Okay, so this part which you can see here, this is called the supralateral surface on the right. This is the supralateral surface on the left. Okay, then where is the medial surface? For example, if I am dividing the cerebral hemisphere, so this part which you can see right now, the palm region, this is the medial surface. So now let me put down the medial surface over here. Now coming to the medial surface, what are the important structures you need to know here? See, for example, this is your cerebral cortex. This is your cerebral cortex over here. Now, in the cerebral cortex, what are the important structures you can see? For example, here I'm drawing one structure over here. See, this structure which I'm drawing right now is called as your corpus callosum. What is this structure called as? This is called as corpus callosum. Now, this part, this red color part which you can see in this corpus callosum, this part is called as the genu of corpus callosum. G-E-N-U, genu of corpus callosum. Next, this part which you can see over here, this part is called as a splenium of corpus callosum. So one we have got is a genu of corpus callosum and the other one is called as a splenium of corpus callosum. After that, This structure which you can see over here, this is called as a body or the trunk of the corpus callosum. So what are the structures? One you have got is this red color part is called as the genu, then you have got as a body, and after that the last one is called as the splenium of the corpus callosum. Now within this genu here there is one very important structure which you can see like this part, this blue color one which I have drawn is called as a fornix. Okay, what is this called? This is called as a fornix. Okay, so let me just name this part. This part over here is called as your fornix of your corpus callosum, right? Now next important part is this part, as I already told you, this is called as your genu. Okay, and this part over here is called as your splenium of the corpus callosum. So next important thing over here, what you can see is that here, let me draw these lines over here between the fornix and the corpus callosum. So these lines which I am drawing with the green over here, these lines are nothing but called as your, what is this? This is called as your septum pellucidum. Okay, what is this structure which I have drawn right now? This structure which I have drawn right now is called as septum pellucidum. Okay, septum pellucidum. Now just beneath this structure over here, we have got, just beneath the genu, we have got an important structure like this which is hanging down. Okay, so this important structure which is hanging down is called as a rostrum. Okay, so what is this one called as? This is called as rostrum. Okay, this part is called as a rostrum. Now just beneath the rostrum, we have got another important structure all the way like this. So this important structure which you can see just beneath the rostrum is called here as anterior commissure. This part over here is called as anterior commissure. This part over here is called as anterior commissure. Okay. Now next important thing is that just beneath this anterior commissure, this structure which I am drawing right now, you see this structure which I am drawing right now just beneath this anterior commissure. This is one of the very important structure in our today's topic right now. So this structure over here is called as linea terminalis. Okay, so this structure over here you call it as linea terminalis. Linea terminalis. Now after this linea terminalis, down here you have got another important structure. You see this? Another important structure like this. So this structure which is located beneath this linea terminalis, this particular one is what is called as your optic chiasma. So now we are about to discuss what are the relations of optic chiasma, right? So this one over here is called as your optic chiasma. Optic chiasma. Now just in front of your optic chiasma, you have got another important structure like this. This structure over here is called as tuber cinereum. Now hanging down from the tuber cinereum, you have got this particular part which is coming down. This is called as infundibulum. Okay. Now this infundibulum, or also called as pituitary stalk, is having a pituitary gland like this. This part of the pituitary is called as a posterior pituitary. And next important thing, another pituitary gland, another part of the pituitary gland, this blue color one is called as the anterior pituitary. So you have got two parts over here. One is called as what? The posterior pituitary, and the other one is called as your anterior pituitary. So where is your posterior pituitary? See this one over here. This one over here is called as your posterior pituitary, and this one over here is called as your anterior pituitary. And this part over here is called as your tuber cinereum, and this one over here is called as your infundibulum. Infundibulum. What is the other name for infundibulum? This is also called as pituitary stalk. This is also called as a pituitary stalk. Okay. Now behind this you have got another important structure which is not needed right now to know. This is called as your mammillary bodies. Okay, what are these called? These are called as your mammillary bodies. So behind this mammillary bodies you have got another important structure. I think I have discussed these structures in the previous lectures. Okay, so please do watch those previous lectures to understand these structures. I'm not labeling about these structures right now. I'm labeling only the things which are needed. Okay. So behind this over here, we have got this substance which you can see, the substance is getting perforated. So this is called as posterior perforated substance. So we have got one structure, this is mammillary body. Behind the mammillary body we have got posterior perforated substance. Now behind this posterior perforated substance, this part which you can see right now, which I'm drawing right now, this is called as your midbrain. Okay, so what is this structure which I'm drawing right now? This structure, whatever I'm drawing right now, is called as your midbrain. So this entire part is called as your midbrain. Now in this midbrain, let us say there is one more important part you have to observe here. What is this important part? Within the midbrain you have got a small cavity, right, which you also called as what? Cerebral aqueduct. Okay, so in the center here you have got a cavity like this. You see this cavity in the center? The cavity that is present in the center is called as cerebral aqueduct. Now one important point you need to understand here is that, see, this cavity in the center is called as your cerebral aqueduct. Cerebral aqueduct. Now whatever I'm telling you is that above the cerebral aqueduct, this part of the midbrain, whatever you have, you see this part of the midbrain, that is located above the cerebral aqueduct, this part is called as a tegmentum of the midbrain. Okay, what is this called as? This is called as tegmentum of your midbrain. Tegmentum of your midbrain. Okay, this part is called as tegmentum of your midbrain. Next important thing. So not only this tegmentum of your midbrain, and exactly here, you see this part which I am shading it right now, this part is called as the subthalamic tegmentum of the midbrain. So what is this region called as? This region is called as subthalamic tegmentum of your midbrain. Subthalamic tegmentum of your midbrain, right? And next important thing is that on the back side, here you have got a very important part. This is called as your pineal gland. This gland over here is called as your pineal gland. Okay, now this pineal gland has got a small stalk in the front. This stalk over here is called as a pineal stalk. Okay, so what is this stalk over here? This is called as pineal stalk. And by the way, tell me guys, what is the other name for your pineal gland? Pineal gland is also called as what? Epiphysis. Epiphysis. And next important thing you need to remember is that this pineal stalk will divide into two laminae. One lamina is going up, one lamina is going down. The lamina which is going up is called as the superior laminae, and the lamina which is coming down is called as the inferior laminae. Now this superior laminae will take its way like this. It will first go anteriorly forward, then posteriorly backward, again anteriorly forward, and go and attach here. Now coming to the inferior lamina will straight away come and attach like this. Okay. Now to this superior laminae, here you have got a structure, and to the inferior laminae also you have got a structure like this, black color one. So this structure which is present to the superior laminae is called as habenular commissure. Habenular commissure. And this structure over here is called as your posterior commissure. Posterior commissure. Habenular commissure and posterior commissure. Now exactly here, can you see this cavity over here? You see this cavity which you can see over here, right? So this cavity is called as the cavity of diencephalon or third ventricle. Now our focus is mainly on the optic chiasm, right? Now before I focus on that, this is your third ventricle. Now third ventricle has got parts. What are the parts? For example, this is called as the roof of the third ventricle. This is called as the anterior wall of the third ventricle. Back, this is called as the posterior wall of the third ventricle. Down here, this is called as the floor of the third ventricle. Okay. Now let us go back to the structures which we have already discussed. Now let us see what are the posterior relations. What are the posterior relations? One is tuber cinereum, right? So let us see where is tuber cinereum. See, this is optic chiasm. Back of optic chiasm, you see this red color Y-shaped thing, right? What is this thing? Tuber cinereum. So it is located back only. And by the way, sir, in this picture, which is front, which is back? Which is front, which is back, in the sense, all of you know the frontal region is front, occipital region is back, right? So this pole over here is called as a frontal pole. This pole over here is called as a temporal pole. And on the back, this pole over here is called as a occipital pole. We have got frontal pole, we have got temporal pole, we have got occipital pole over here. How many poles do we have? We have got 3 poles. Frontal pole, we have got temporal pole, and we have also got occipital pole. Okay, right. So here, if you particularly look at this part, this is called as your optic chiasma, right? Now, behind optic chiasma, in the sense, it will be like this arrow or arrow on the back. Obviously, it will be the arrow to the back, right? So, let us look at this. Tuber cinereum. Where is tuber cinereum? See, this part is called as tuber cinereum. Where is it located? It is located behind your optic chiasma. Okay, that is why I have written posterior relation. Second is infundibulum. Where is infundibulum? Infundibulum is the structure that is attached to this tuber cinereum. So obviously that is also located posterior to optic chiasma. Third important thing. So we are done with the posterior. Coming to the superior relations. Superiorly we have got 2 important things. The first important thing is lamina terminalis. Where is lamina terminalis? See, this one which is located on the top, this is lamina terminalis. So this is your lamina terminalis. Okay. So this structure over here is called as your lamina terminalis. Where is it located? It is located on the top of optic chiasm. And if you very carefully observe here, that look at this part. If you closely observe here, see this part all the way from here till here, you call it as a floor, right? Floor of what? Floor of third ventricle. Now exactly see here, if this part is optic chiasma, you see this part of the optic chiasma, this small portion of optic chiasma which is on the top, right? Don't you think this is also covering the floor of the third ventricle, right? So that is the reason why I have written here, after lamina terminalis, you even have got the floor of the third ventricle. Okay, lamina terminalis and the floor of the third ventricle. Next, coming to the inferior relations. Now, what are these inferior relations? Inferior relations, we have got one very important structure that is called as your diaphragma sellae. So, what is this diaphragma sellae? So, for this, let me draw one more picture over here. You will understand what is this diaphragma sellae over here. For example, let us draw the skeletal surface like this. Right, so just ignore this picture. This is just a rough picture which I am drawing right now. So here you have got this part, the second part, and the third part over here. Yeah, so let me just highlight this part. And by the way, again I am telling you, if the picture is wrong, sorry, if the picture is funny, then just ignore it. And yeah, not to forget that you even have your teeth. Right, whatever it is. So in this particular picture, where is your brain located? Okay, you see this is your brain that is located within the skeletal skull. Now within this brain over here, let us say this is your spinal cord like this. Okay, now within this brain over here, you have got one very important structure here. You see this important structure which I am drawing over here is called as your optic chiasma. Okay, behind the optic chiasma, what you should have? See, behind the optic chiasma, what do you have? You have got this particular structure called as tuber cinereum, right? So behind the optic chiasma, you have got this particular structure over here, and this particular structure is called as your tuber cinereum. This particular structure is called as your tuber cinereum. Okay. Now, covering all the brain, covering the entire brain, you have got meninges, brain meninges, right? So let us say that you see this layer which I am drawing right now is your dura mater. Now this dura mater has got a small fold that is covering the tuber cinereum. It has even got a small fold that is covering your what? This is not tuber cinereum, this is your, what is this? Optic chiasma. And there is a small fold that is even covering your pituitary gland in this way. Okay, so this fold of dura mater which is covering, by the way, what is the name of this? This one is called as your optic chiasma. Optic chiasma. So if I ask you about what is the inferior wall of the optic chiasma, what will you tell? So anything that is downward is called as the inferior wall, right? So inferiorly you see this part over here, you see this part over here which is present inferiorly, right? So what is the name of that part which is present inferiorly over there? So this part is given a specific name, and that is called as diaphragma sellae. Diaphragma sellae. So diaphragma sellae is the part that is located over there. Okay, so this is the part which is inferiorly located. So diaphragma sellae. So that is the reason why the last part I have written it as diaphragma sellae. So overall, I hope you see, just I can just write it as diaphragma sellae. Need not to waste my time and draw all these pictures. The reason why I am drawing is that just by looking at the pictures itself, you just have to learn everything. So that is the only intention. So let us just revise what are the structures that are in relation with your optic chiasma. The first important structure here is the lateral relations. What are the lateral relations? Right and left internal carotid artery. Okay. After that, coming to the posterior relations. Coming to the posterior relations, we have got two important things. One is called as a tuber cinereum, okay, and the other one is called as your infundibulum. Next, coming to the superior relations. Coming to the superior relations, what do we have? We have got lamina terminalis. We even have got another important structure, that is floor of the third ventricle. And inferior relations are diaphragma sellae. So these are the structures which you need to know in relations with your optic chiasma. Okay, so this is all you need to know, guys. So thank you so much for watching my video. Goodbye.